Hello and welcome to the Mercury guide. This guide is going to be split into 3 sections. The first section is going to be on building and Mercury's second part of his passive, because that's important for building. Then it will be Mercury's first part of his passive, his abilities, and his basic attack progression chain in part 2. And then the third and final section will be on fighting and mechanical tips and tricks with Mercury. So, might as well just get started on the build straight away. In Conquest, in the jungle, you're going to be getting Assassin's Blessing and either Katana or Hidden Dagger. Either one of these is fine. Katana's the more reliable one, however Hidden Dagger also works as well. And then you'll just get 1 healing and 1 multi potion. In other modes, you can obviously you won't be getting Assassin's Blessing, you'll be getting Attacker's Blessing, things like Clash and Arena. Although in those modes, it's probably better to get combat boots and then back early, because you'll have, I believe that's 900, so you'll have 600 gold, so you only need to wait for 100 gold and then you can back and get full warrior tabby. And if I leave base, you'll see I will not only get 0 power, I will not only get the 40 power from here, but I also get an extra 17, as you can see there. Now that is because of the second part of Mercury's passive, which is Mercury gains an additional physical power equal to 25% of the movement speed gained from items or abilities. This includes abilities other teammates use on you, so things like sprint will work with this as well. So I'll just go with the standard starting build for Conquest. Then you're going to want to get warrior tabby most of the time. You can also get Talaria boots, except you will be losing out on quite a lot of power here. However, the movement speed will make the gap less sort of impactful. So get warrior tabby. Then next, I like to get stone cutting sword. I think it's really good for like an early game power spike. Even though they did nerf 3% movement speed off it, it's not that big of a deal. Then next, you're going to want to get rage. Mercury heavily relies on his basic attacks and crits a lot, so rage, then Deathbringer, because you want these crits to actually do a lot of damage. And then I like to get Bloodforge. You can also get Assy here, but I think Bloodforge is better for the massive power spike, and it allows you to get into a team fight, get a kill, and then remember you'll gain the movement speed from the shield. You gain 10%, so that'll give you extra power when you have this health shield as well, and it'll allow you to kill multiple enemies. Then last, most of the time I like to go Wind Demon. However, if you feel like CC is being a problem in shutting you down, you can get Magi's Cloak as well. Those are the 2 best items to get in this slot, in my opinion. However, you can get other items as well. You can get things like Poison Star, which I don't think is as good as Wind Demon, because this will give you like more attack speed and movement speed when you're attacking someone, so it will give you more power. However, Poison Star will sort of slow the enemy. It's like, do you want to buff yourself or debuff the enemy? It's your choice. Then other items you can get: Hide of the Urchin if you want, Mantle of Discord, Spirit Robe, and those are probably the best ones. Now, once you decide that you're going to sell boots, you can trade this out for a number of different items. If you don't generally want to get Titan's Bane on Mercury, because 90% of the time you are going to be focusing the enemy backlines, because their frontliners will probably have Hide of the Nemean Lion against you to counter your crits. So, but you can get Titan's Bane if you want, say if their backline has got some defensive items. Other items you can get Assy if you want to lifesteal a ton. If you get that passive up and you walk up to any camp in the game, you will get straight back up to full health late game once you have your full build. Other items that can be useful: Hastened Katana, although if you have Wind Demon, because you get 20% extra movement speed when you crit here, you probably don't need Hastened Katana. But if you have trouble sticking to people, even with Wind Demon, then you can pick it up as well. Another item that's good, Masamune, movement speed, power as well. You can also get Shifter Shield as well, Void Shield. These are generally for if you're having trouble fighting the hunters. And an item that you can get if you want, although this is getting to really weak items now, is Frostbound Hammer. Slowing the enemy's movement speed and their attack speed. Again, it's quite good for fighting hunters, and also if you have either Wind Demon or Hasten Katana. Some people will call you scummy for using it, but it's up to you. And that's it for the building section. So now on to Mercury's first passive, his abilities and his basic attack progression chain. Now his first passive is that for every 1 unit travel Mercury gains power, is 0.08%, physical power bonus towards his next basic attack, a maximum of 40%. So whatever your physical power is, you will add that onto your base. You'll add 40% of that onto your basic attack. I will just hit an Odin bot here, and as you can see, you'll see the bar getting charged up here, and also this number actually displays the power you're getting from your movement speed items. As you can see, it's charging up. One thing to note is if you start jumping, which is something that really annoys me when I see Mercury players doing it, is if you're jumping, it won't actually charge up. So you can see as I'm moving, it charges up. If I start jumping, however, it's no longer charging up. That's just something to note. Then next, we'll get on to his first ability. This will be the ability you're maxing first, and it's also his main clear. This ability can critically hit, but it will not trigger basic attack item effects apart from crits. And obviously, see if you have a poison stat, it will trigger those effects as well. So that is why I don't have a Golden Blade in Mercury's build anymore. In the past, when they brought back Golden Blade, or the Golden Blade sort of effect, Mercury was a top tier jungler because his one instantly cleared every camp, pretty much every camp. Then on to his next ability, Maximum Velocity. This is an ability that is very misunderstood. It has a passive and an active effect. Its active gives Mercury increased attack speed, and it will cleanse him of slows, and he will also become immune for the full duration of it. Now the passive of it is it increases movement speed. A lot of people, when they're walking around, especially sort of newer players and people who don't understand Mercury, I will just see them randomly pop the 2 while they're walking through the jungle to try and get extra movement speed, which is not how it works at all. This will be the ability you're maxing second. Then on to Special Delivery, his 3. This is sort of your main setup. Some things to note about this is that he is knock-up immune whilst dashing, and but it can be cancelled by every other hard CC. So I'm just going to level to level 20. Your ability, so I've got those. You will want to max both of these first. You will obviously have 1 point in your ult, but you don't want to put any more points into your ult until you're going to start putting points in your 3. So I'll just demonstrate. Obviously the 1 is pretty obvious, the 2 gives more attack speed, and then the 3 is just a dash. However, if you go into an enemy, if you hit an enemy, it will stop on the first enemy hit, and you will stun them and sort of go around them doing tick damage, and then you'll throw them in a direction that you're facing. You have to be facing a direction, and they will always go in that direction. A lot of people will just dash in as Mercury when they're playing him for the first time, and they'll just throw him towards the enemy, like towards his own team, because you don't know that you have to look to where you want to throw him. Then his last ability, you did see me use it to catch up to that camp. It's Sonic Boom. It's really just a really like long ranged instant dash that will do damage to all enemies hit, and it will stun them. I think it's classed as a disorient. Yeah, it's classed as a disorient. You can think of it like a stun, except at the end of the duration the enemy will just be facing a random direction. 2 things to note is that obviously I talked about his passive charging up. If you use your 3 or your ult, you are technically travelling the same amount as if you were just walking around normally like this. However, his 3 and his ult will charge up slightly more. I'll just show you this here. So you can see that I'm going to be travelling 60 units, and you'll see that this will fill up to about 3/4. About 3/4 on the first bar. Now if I were to reset it and use my 3 to about the same distance, you'll see it's done a bit more, about a quarter-ish more. His ult is also the same. Oh, actually, I did do that a bit short, but as you can see, it's still charged up more than walking normally, so the point still stands. Now onto his basic attack progression chain. Also, I should note, upgrade your ult whenever you can after these are both maxed, and then just put a point in your 3, obviously. So his basic attack progression chain, remember this is damage and swing time, so hitting them with the first hit will deal 401 basic attack damage. This is a basic attack damage icon, 401. Then on 0.75, this will be 75% of the damage, but will also be 25% faster. And then 1.25 will be 125% of that 401 damage, but it will also be 25% slower. I'll just sell my Wind Demon so you can see this chain. So every 3 hits it's on a cycle. This is important to note for clearing camps early game, because if a camp, say, has like pretty much no health left, any of the basic attacks in this chain will kill it. You don't want to use this 3rd hit on it, because that will be a waste on one of the minions. If a minion has like no health left, try to use a 0.75 on it and use a 1.25 times damage on one of the minions that has a lot more health. And that is it for Mercury's passive abilities and basic attack progression chain. Now on to Mercury's fighting and mechanical tips and tricks. First off, as your relics, I include this in these sections because this is more for this is very important for fighting. Beat and blink, pretty much the same on every assassin. I'm just going to stack my rage, and then I will also get Wind Demon. Okay, so when you're normally fighting, or if you're engaging with minion waves, you will generally want to use your 1 for clear, or if you're wanting to poke, your 1 is very good poke because it can crit. To consistently hit your 1 on someone who doesn't have any extra movement speed apart from obviously like their boots, if you just put them in the center, it will pretty much hit them every time, even if they get to the edge of it. Early game, your 1 will be a lot smaller, as you can see, far smaller. When you upgrade it, it also increases in size. So hitting it early game, you're generally going to have to try and predict where they're going, but they will also be moving slower, so it can be easier. When you cast it for poke, you're generally going to want to do it at the max range for safety, and then as soon as you cast it, turn around and move in the other direction. Do a 180, hold W in that direction. I'm just going to reduce my cooldown and then reset it. You're only going to want to turn obviously if you're not chasing. If you are chasing an enemy, then you're obviously going to want to keep on chasing them down. Your 2, only use it when you're going to be basic attacking. That's the only time you want to be using it. Obviously, you know, massive increase in attack speed, almost goes to the cap of 2.5. Now your 3, there's quite a few tips here. First of all, your 3 can be affected by a thing called diminishing returns. I'll quickly explain what diminishing returns are. This is to do with hard crowd control. Now it's important for his 3 because if you can see this, it will do the full 1 second. However, if I hit him again, it's much slower. It's actually a third slower. What diminishing returns is when you use any type of hard CC on an enemy, it will do the full duration initially, and the enemy will have 1 stack of diminishing returns on them. then that means that the next hard CC that hits them will only last a third of the time. Okay, and then that second hard CC that's applied to them will add another stack of diminishing returns. So now they have 2 stacks of diminishing returns. So then the next hard CC that you apply to them will be reduced by a third again. This is mainly to do with stopping like absolutely broken hard crowd control chains in SMITE, but it's just something to note for your 3. That if you see someone, say, get stunned by like a Gebel, for instance, on the enemy team, then maybe it might be a good idea to use your 3 and quickly turn to throw them away. That added the stack of diminishing returns, and they've been stunned. Quickly turn. This stops you being stationary, because remember, in your 3 you're very vulnerable to taking damage and getting blown up. So it can be a good idea to hit someone who has been diminishing return, because this tick damage is nowhere near the damage that you will be taking in that, or the damage that you could be doing with your basic attacks with crit. Tips for where to throw people: either towards your team, and if you are throwing them towards your team, you're going to want to throw your 1 at where they're landing, and it will hit them before they can land and move out the way. However, if you're just sort of fighting solo in the jungle, it's a good idea to try and throw them into a wall so you can get a basic attack off on them before they land. Now, if I was just to try and do the same thing that I did then and hit a basic attack before they land, when they're just going to be thrown, I'll just wait for this Bloodforge to go. If I was to try the exact same thing, I wouldn't be able to hit them before they landed. If they were a worse player, like a pretty bad player, then they might not instantly move or jump out of the way. You can catch up to them and hit a basic attack. But generally, if you're throwing them into open space, use your 1 before they land. If you're in a closed and tight area with walls around, throw them into a wall to guarantee basic attacks. To make sure that you catch up to the enemy, obviously hold W while you're in your 3 to instantly move in the direction that they are thrown. A really important tip is, if you don't know whether their beads are up or not, it's a good idea, if they were say this Odinbot is an enemy and they were moving, we'll wait until he moves to what in that direction just there. If he was moving in that direction away from me, if he's going to bead, he's most likely going to be moving in that direction. However, if obviously he doesn't have them up, you can choose where to throw them, but just watch what I do in my 3. I'll look in the direction and then I'll turn at the last second, but I'll always be holding W, so if he does beads and keep moving, it will be like nothing happened, because I will still be holding W towards him. So if we were to pretend he would bead this, I would just keep on walking towards him. And then for the ult tips, your ult will actually hit people, even if you can see obviously the edge of it there, that if you hit that a bit short, it will actually still hit the enemies. It's hard to like demonstrate if you're not like in a game, because this usually only happens if you like kind of mistime it. Right there. Obviously I stopped right in front of him, but it still hit, because the hitboxes in SMITE are kind of deceptive. The same tip that I showed in my Thanatos guide with the ult is when you click your ult, whilst you're in your ult, if you turn your camera whilst you're in your ult to face the enemy when you come out of it, you will instantly come out facing them. I'll just show it to explain it better. So if I'm going to ult past him, I'm going to turn my camera and I'll instantly obviously be facing him. To show like a better example of this, because obviously I went much further past him there. If I was to go past this Odinbot, I would instantly hit a basic attack. You didn't actually even see my basic attack go off there, because the animation was still in my sort of ult animation. I'll do it again. You see, the basic attack animation doesn't go off, but you still saw the number hit. Now when you land in with your ult like that and get that initial basic attack off, you're then going to want to cancel that first basic attack by pressing 2 to activate your second ability, and then they'll still be in that 1.5 second stun, and whilst they're in there, you're just going to want to keep on laying basic attacks into them, and then as you see that timer go down, as soon as it's about to finish, no matter what basic attack you're doing, no matter whether it's about to hit or not, you can try and get like one last one in, but you're going to want to try and cancel it with your 3 and then throw them into either a wall or your team, obviously. So I'll just show the combo like really quick. Okay, as you can see there, and that's generally how you would ult in and kill somebody. I'll just show this underneath, but over here so you can actually see me killing them. Dead. And that is pretty much it for the Mercury guide. I hope you enjoyed watching, I hope you learned something, and I hope to see you playing Mercury and doing well in my games. Thanks for watching.